Welcome to another 88.5 SoCal Sound session. I am Julie Slater, midday host, here with Real Estate. Alex Bleeker, Martin Courtney, welcome.
Hi, Julie.
Hello.
Thank you for coming to Northridge.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us.
It's lovely.
You guys just played the Bellwether. It was really fun seeing your show. I had never been there before. It must have been your first time playing there because it's a pretty new venue.
It's a brand new
How was
club.
it? The sound was really good. That's always, obviously, the best.
Great sound. Sounded great on stage. I love a brand new venue. I love a squeaky clean venue. And
State of the art.
And yeah, but best show I can remember playing in Los Angeles. I really had a great time.
I think I would say so too. I mean, it was really fun, and we can get into certain aspects of why it was fun, but it felt really fun.
And it was just good. But even, I mean, for a Monday, I was kind of worried about it because it's a Monday night.
New club.
And it was like, the crowd was great and we had a great time. Yeah, it was like.
And you know, sometimes it's silly, but like the Los Angeles show or the New York City show can feel a little stressful or like elevated because, you know, you're like, when you're on tour, it's such an island in a lot of places. Maybe you have one or two friends there, but we have like a lot of friends pooled in these larger cities, and it's like, oh my God, so-and-so is here.
You better not screw it up.
The labels in the house. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
like we kind of like
tense about
kept
it, you know?
the green room to ourselves until after the show, and then it was crazy after the show. But it was, label management, like all
Even
the
just stepping out on stage,
friends.
though, you know, you're like, there's like, LA, these people are important. It's like so ridiculous.
I mean, we are
right?
kind of important.
I
aren't
do
we?
feel that way. I wouldn't say this on any other radio station, but it's true, you know.
That's funny. So Fred Armisen came on stage, which was really fun. What's the connection to Fred?
Besides
the fact that he seems to know everybody in every band.
Yeah, I guess he's I mean, he's a really sweet guy. I actually had to look back to remember like how it all came together, but he reached out to us in like 2019. He like DM'd us on Instagram and was like, I love your band. Just like randomly, you know, like I'm a huge fan. I listen to you guys all the time.
He really is a fan. We'd heard that he'd spoken about us publicly, like when people ask what are you listening to or whatever. Mm-hmm. And eventually, you know, we were just like, hey, let's just ask him to play bongos with us, because we know he's a musician and he's a drummer and he does that with bands sometimes.
And we have a song on the record. There's one, I was like, let's see if he'll play bongos on Freeze Brain, because there's like a kind of featured bongo part. And he was like, yes, please, I'm so happy you asked. And what about all these other songs too? And like we were like, cool, yes. So like he played like a big chunk of the set with us.
This was actually had met him like many years ago at Coachella, like you do when Coachella used to be the type of festival that a band like Real Estate would receive prominent billing on, you know? That's how long ago that was. But yeah, and so it was like a brief meeting, but I remember even then he was like, oh my gosh, I love your band, I love you guys. And so there was like the tiniest connection there. But we really met in earnest for the first time last night and got on really well. And it was kind of fun to feel, because like Martin was saying, he wound up playing a total of like 8 songs with us. And at first, it was like, oh, it's this sort of novelty. There's Fred, like, doing his aux percussion thing, and, like, it's Fred Armisen, you recognize him. And he was up there long enough that, and you can verify this.
I mean, he's a great musician.
He's a great player, and it just turned into, like, oh, this other player is playing well with the band. You know, like, it really kind of, like, just faded into that. It was great, you know?
Emailed him today and was like, you are now the official auxiliary percussion player in Real Estate. You can play any show with us.
You sent him your tour.
Yeah, totally. Like, come drop in whenever you want. Yeah, definitely. Maybe he'll come back someday, yeah.
It's super fun.
Yeah, he's great.
I did want to ask something pretty serious. So I was going on Twitter/X, and I wasn't logged in, and I went to your band, so it took me to like a bunch of old tweets. December 31st, 2019.
This really is an interrogation.
If you don't like this band, 2020 is going to suck for you.
Oh,
this was right before. Did you guys cause the pandemic?
Yeah. We did that. That's intense.
Obviously, no recollection.
I think I tweeted that.
But
sometimes I like.
Did you ever go back and think about that tweet? Because there's a lot of stuff that happened.
A lot happened.
Well, if you like the band, it sucked for you too. So you know, that's
wow. You know, that's a foreboding text on that
intense,
day,
yeah.
on that specific day.
Wait, what was the day that we
December 31st, 2019.
Oh, right, because it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, it's going to be a big year for
Did you have any
I like
premonitions
to kind of like be like boastful on the internet sometimes. It's fun to kind of, but very, no premonitions. No, it's like, because we're going to be everywhere. We're going to be in your face in 2020. That was the point of that tweet.
Yeah,
but
how
apparently that
young
didn't happen.
and naive
I just wanted to set the record straight.
No, it wasn't a spiteful causing of a global pandemic for all the people that didn't like the band. That wasn't the intention.
There's a lot of collateral damage.
If you actually look at the metrics of, what happened, all the fans of real estate. I'm not going any further with this.
Okay, let's talk about the new record, Daniel. There seems to be quite a Daniel theme going on. I saw on your website you have a Daniel of the month. Happens to be Danielle Steele. I don't know if you guys realize this.
We do. Oh yeah, we're very involved in choosing the Daniel of the month. That's not just like management handles that. Okay. That's like a big decision.
Are you guys reading any Daniel Steele novels on tour?
Can't say I've read a Daniel Steele novel.
I don't think I ever have caught.
Just a fan.
Yeah, just
a Daniel fan.
She's a prominent Dan.
She's a prominent Danielle. Deserves to be highlighted,
So how did you guys come up with, just from bios and things, you guys were just trying to create a name, and Daniel is also the name of your producer?
Daniel is the name of our producer, but it's not named for
no?
him, though, you can choose to read it that way if you like. You can choose to read it any way you like. I think the truth for us is, sometimes I feel like each one of us will have a different answer for who Daniel is. Sometimes I think there's truly not an answer for who Daniel is. Sometimes I think we're as perplexed and bewildered and kind of in love with it in this enigmatic way as anyone else. Like, we just felt it. Choosing an album title for this band is always difficult. We were all together while we were recording the album before it was even done. We were like, what if we gave it a proper name? Like, actually name it like a child or a pet, And the name Daniel...
Thought it'd be funny, but yeah, to give it a name.
The name Daniel came up, and it just felt correct in ways that I don't know if we could even fully describe to you. Yeah. That's the closest to the truthful answer.
To me, naming a record is both, completely unimportant. Because, unless you're making, a concept album where, there's, an obvious thing you need to name it, it doesn't matter, but then it does. It can, if it has a cool name, or it's just one of those things where, we end up thinking about it a little too much. And this, like everything else with this record, this name came very easily. The record itself, we were really trying to not belabor any decisions, and just allow it to flow freely. And so we were like, Daniel sounds good. Let's go with Daniel.
We're a pretty democratic group, so if there's something that lands with 5 people that they can all live with, that's something to pay attention to.
Right, it's probably not easy to do.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it to do a show where you had to have the name Daniel in your name? And did you do one of those?
We did one. Maybe we'll do another one. It was really fun. It was ridiculous.
Once we had the name.
Once we had the name, all of these things just started
open.
Beautifully tumbling out. I will, with the caveat that it was a pretty small show, but I'd
only
say,
so many Daniels
I'd say
out there.
The vast majority, there were obviously the odd friend and so on in New York City that snuck their way into the room as a non-Daniel, but my brother's named Daniel, so he was there totally above board, and truly, we walked out on stage and we're like, how many people are here are named Daniel, and it was like, I think it was better for them than us.
It's really cool.
I mean, my name's Alex. It's an extraordinarily common name. I'm sure I could get in a room with a lot of Alexes, and I don't know how it would feel. It would feel like a moment,
That's pretty funny. You recorded the album in Nashville, right?
That's right.
And how did that change the vibe of the album for you? I mean, to me, it would seem like where you write songs and then also where you record it really kind of make the record a certain way.
Yeah, I mean...
Did you spend a lot of time in Nashville before then?
No, we've played shows there. We've toured through Nashville. But first time we spent time there. I think, it helped us because, we gave ourselves 2 weeks to record this record, which isn't, a crazy short amount of time. We've made other records in 2 weeks. But not wanting to... Basically, the way they work in Nashville often... I mean, we recorded in, a country music studio with country music
Did
people.
You wear cowboy hats by any chance?
We did not, but there were cowboy hats in the mix.
I'm thinking about a bolo, someday.
Our engineer it wasn't really a cowboy hat. He had this kind of...
It was pretty cowboy.
Pretty
it was the most cowboy person we've ever had in the studio.
He was cool.
That was a guy named Craig Allen who mixed and engineered the record, and he's like a Muscle Shoals guy. So it was all sort of... we didn't set out to make our Nashville record. The Nashville thing sort of came on the heels of we did want to work with this great producer, Daniel Tashian, because he has a great pop sentiment, and that's the type of record we wanted to make, and he was sort of helped us get under the hood and really clean these songs up. And he is like one of the consummate Nashville producers. I mean, he is like child of 2 Nashville musicians. He was born and bred there. He works all over town. And so we figured it was possible. But if he had said like, guys, I want to go to Los Angeles, we would have been like, cool, let's go there. But I mean, it was great that he was like, I figure you'll just come to me and I'll find some studio for us to work in. Don't worry, there's plenty of them. And so the fact that we wound up in the extraordinarily historic RCA Studio A was kind of a late happenstance. Like for some people, I'm sure it's like, we need to get into this room, which if you don't know, like Jolene was recorded in there. And like anybody you can think of, like Willie and Waylon, Charlie Pride, like there's these photos line the hall. It's basically, it's on like a Nashville tour bus stop.
It's in like Music Row,
yeah.
Like
That's very cool.
It was amazing. It was amazing, but that was like, he was like, hey, great news. We can get into RCA Studio A. That would be awesome. You know, he was just kind of having dinner with folks around town, and you know, he's a well-known guy, and that was offered to him. So that we didn't have time to like freak out or think really, really hard about that.
It came together like 3 weeks before.
And we were just like
go.
walked in there and we're like, oh, amazing. And obviously, like that history's in there. It was kind of the perfect thing because we weren't like phoning in some sort of like real estate goes country. You know, it was more just like,
happened organically.
This is the place where we are, and it's historic and it feels amazing.
Like, you know, it's before even deciding to record in Nashville, like knowing sort of not making a country record, but that sort of timeless instrumentation. Like I wanted it to be very acoustic, very like warm, and a lot of like Hammond organ and piano and Wurlitzer, and I'm pretty much exclusively playing acoustic guitar on the record, rhythm guitar, and so I guess it lends itself to that. And then, you know, obviously we're there, and Daniel was like, do you guys want to get some steel on a few of these songs? And we're like, yeah, sure, you know, obviously.
You kind of had
and
to
so
do
then
that
happens, and then it kind of gets further in there. And then what I was kind of alluding to earlier is just like the workflow was very Nashville, like, which kind of helped us to, again, like, not belabor it, you know, and it's like, meaning like we recorded very quickly. We gave ourselves 2 weeks, we were done in like 9 days. And yeah, recording like 2 songs a day, and just like it didn't feel rushed, but it felt like we were really moving at like a significant clip.
Coming from more of an indie rock context where you know, we've made records in different ways. We've made some that are faster like this, but you know, always comparatively, I feel like it feels like a belabored, like precious jewel, you know, that you spend, you know, there's these stories, this took 2 years, you know, whatever.
There's not even a lot of overdubs on this record.
But the fact that we were circling back, like we wouldn't finish sessions in a day and never go back to them, like it still felt very fast for us, but the folks we were working with were like, this is so cool, we have all this time to like, you know, so it was this happy like novelty for both that created a really good sort of energy, you know.
What about the song? The song Victoria has a country vibe to it.
Totally.
Did you go in with that, or did that get created while you were there?
Kind of, you know, I wrote that song. I've got a couple songs that I pen sometimes, you know, on a few of our records. Martin usually writes most of them, and then I could sneak one in there every once in a while. And
you're like, we're a Nashville band.
You know, I guess I organically, when not trying to write in any specific style, I tilt a little rootsier, I would say, folkier, countryer. Like I just like, that's what comes out of me organically. Like I have to be really specific if I want to write a different type of song, which I have done, but like if I'm just sitting there, this song, like Martin was saying, like really came out of me quite organically, and it's a sort of more classic style of song that I would write. So that would have probably been in there regardless, but the fact that we were in Nashville is like, yeah, I mean, like, the steel really sounds at home in that one, you know? And it had actually the demo, there's a demo of it, it had a little bit more of a like, and this was still their like return to folk, but it had like a Beatles, 2 of us kind of like driving more like plucky acoustic guitar thing, and we did ditch that in the studio to make it more of an expansive kind of country.
Smoothed it out a little bit, and yeah.
And you performed 3 songs today. Tell me about Haunted World. So I had read that it kind of came together in the studio. And is this haunted world killing you?
Yeah, it kind of came together in the studio. Did you
get any ghosts of the people that were previously in that studio coming at you?
I like that. They were supportive. They were friendly. It got better in the studio. Like that was an example of something that was like really, really simple. I can just say this because it has to do with my part. I sort of, this is a bit technical, but for the musicians out there, I do what I call just like pedal a G chord underneath. The rest of the band is changing chords, and I'm staying on this one note, low note, and that was a total Daniel Tashian. Hey, just ride that one note. Don't change so much.
It actually does
it changed the structure of the song entirely.
Countrify it a little bit, in a way. But yeah, that's all. I mean, like most of this record, we kind of were more prepared than we had been in the past. Like, meaning like the songs were fully written when we went into the studio. Like, even when we've made like when we've done like 2-week records, I'd be like frantically trying to finish lyrics, you know, and like this was like done. So it was, yeah, it had its form when we went in, and it didn't change that much, but it really, like, to me, like, I didn't see that song as being anything that special kind of going in. I just thought it was like, it wasn't my favorite of the bunch, I will say. And now it kind of is, like, just one of those things where, yeah, like the thing we did with the bass, and just something about the way that it sounds, the way it was recorded, like it just sounds great, and the steel kind of added a nice thing. And
yeah, that song absolutely would have sounded different in a different place with different people. You know, it would have been the same song, but frankly, I don't think it would have been as good. So that
it wouldn't have. But yeah, and it's like most of this record, or a lot of the, if you're asking me about the lyrics, like it's like I wrote like a lot of the songs are kind of you know, we're writing like pop songs, and I usually do write like, you know, I like a good melody, and I think about that a lot, and so most of these songs have like I don't know if they sound happy, but they have like a more kind of bright feeling to them, I guess. Like, I don't know how to articulate it, but then the lyrics, yeah, it was a weird few years. Like the last few years, like right when I wrote most of these songs in 2022, I think, and so I don't know, just working through kind of, yeah. We put a record out. And then COVID happened immediately. I mean, we alluded to that earlier. So it was like, yeah, so strange time. Like not really getting to work. Making this record was like our first time getting back together in like a while. So.
What about the first single? We've been playing it a lot at the SoCal Sound, Water Underground. It's one of those songs. The first time I heard it, I loved it. It just really, I don't know, it brings a joy to the soul. Tell me about like how that came together.
That song, you know, that one it does have like a magic to it where I again, like when I wrote it, it's the first song I wrote of this batch of songs, and it kind of led me in this direction of like, oh, I really like this. I love this song, and I want to write more songs like this. And it kind of, in a way, like was like a blueprint for the direction this record went in. But yeah, I mean, I wrote the chord progression. I actually had written a few different songs, and I kind of work in batches, and that one was like lower on my list of songs. Like I'll get like a bunch of ideas together, and then I'll finish them like on my computer. I'll record demos, and then all of a sudden, like I was just like, whatever, I'll work on this one, and then once I finished it and had a melody for it, I was like, oh, actually this song is special. In a way that I don't, you know, I can't even necessarily claim credit for. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it just happens.
Does it kind of flow through?
Yeah, but yeah,
and then where it came from.
So it's, I think so. I mean, that's actually what the lyrics are kind of about. You know, in a way, like, creativity or writing, and just like where those ideas come from. Sometimes it's mysterious.
Kind of a unique, you know, like everybody sort of had that reaction even to the demo, like but it is good, like when you know. Like I feel like this record was, the sort of goal was like, let's make it difficult to pick what the singles are. Let's like make a record of 10 singles if we can. But even, and I think we felt that we like make it difficult to pick a single in a good way, you know?
Yeah.
But like, it's a weird thing, like how do you choose a single? Like sometimes you get outside input, but I always feel like when there's a deep consensus, when you know, and like this song was always going to be the lead track off this record, and I think we knew that even before we heard the other songs. It's just like, it's that thing that you said, it has this sort of like magical quality where you're like, that's a good tune, that's a standout, you know? Yeah.
That's great. Before you guys go, I do want to get into some Jersey talk.
Okay.
I have a friend, Mark Goldsmith. He's going to be very excited that I talked to. He was at the show last night. He was wearing this T-shirt at the
Wow.
cool, Glen Rock.
This is like a Nardwuar thing.
Glen Rock, it's a Glen Rock Panthers T-shirt.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, did you guys go to that high school?
Okay, so listen, your friend Mark is maybe trolling us a little bit.
I mean, he's from New Jersey.
Glen Rock.
Yeah, so I guess he went to that
is
high
the
school.
next town over.
Yeah.
From like literally butts up right against the town that we grew up in, which is called Ridgewood, New Jersey. And we, it's so funny because it's like probably half a mile from where we grew up. But when you're a kid and you're in your town with your high school and your corner store and your soccer field and whatever, another town can feel like another continent. Like it's this whole other expansive world of other kids and things. And like some of the very first musical friendships that we forged, not with each other in our own town, but like outside of our town, which felt, you probably know if you can relate to this if you grew up in the suburbs, but it really felt like these people were coming from like East Asia or something. They were like people that we couldn't conceive of, and we're like, they liked the same music as us, which was so valuable.
We all had like we were all in different bands in high school, and you'd start playing shows at your school at the talent show or whatever, like open mics or like people's houses, backyards and stuff, and then it's at some point we realized there's like a scene, there's like a like bizarro scene in this other town where they also have bands, and we started playing shows together.
Two like really, really enterprising kids figured out that we were doing something so close to them, they started coming to our shows and making a connection. And sort of long story short, Martin started playing with them. They were original members, and one of them is the lead singer of the band that is currently Titus Andronicus, that formed out of our scene. But we all used to play these kind of basement backyard shows together. And Patrick from Titus, I think he would not mind me saying that at one point, this is long, long ago, it's like old history, but he was like, I thought it would be fun to have a little rivalry, like an 80s movie or something like that. So he like tried to create Glen Rock versus Ridgewood, like which scene is better.
He would make fun of Ridgewood in the lyrics of his songs,
and
like he's trolling.
But it was really funny because he is a sweet guy, and then eventually we're just like earnest over on the Ridgewood side. We're like, I thought we were all friends, and he's like, I just thought it would be great to have a little rivalry.
They were like a little more punk over there. Yeah, it's funny.
Well, they cast themselves as more punk, but it was like,
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right, a couple more questions from a Jersey friend, Mark.
Yeah.
Cup or cone, favorite flavor at Van Dyke's Ice Cream?
Oh, Mark was really, he's a
he
local
might be
of ours.
You guys
Van Dyke's Ice Cream is the, I hope everyone has one of these in their lives. It's the only open in the summer, hang out outside by your car, homemade ice cream place that's like,
on the trunk,
maybe there's some
tailgate.
fireflies. It's like the really special, it's only open for 3 months a year type of like ice cream place that like brings back that instant nostalgia. I'm a cone guy, and they made
favorite
their own
ice
stuff.
cream?
Yeah, I mean, I would get weird
flavor?
flavors there. They would
Yeah.
do like peach or apple cobbler and stuff, which at the time was like, it's not like a third wave boutique ice cream shop. It was like that was like really out there then, and so all that stuff really spoke to me, like a cinnamon swirl kind of thing.
Yeah. I would experiment sometimes, but I'm usually a mint chip guy or coffee. Like even when I was a kid, I like coffee ice cream. But yeah, cone. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming by, Martin, Alex, Bleecker.
Yeah.
Sometimes goes by Bleecker.
How does it feel?
Real estate. Yeah, I kind of like. I mean, Bleecker's pretty fun.
Yeah.
We appreciate you guys coming by to playing some songs. Love your music, and I'm looking forward to. I'll do a little album dive on the radio so everyone can hear all the intricacies of recording the album in 9 days. That seems pretty fast.
Fast.
But good job.
But
Good job.
just the right amount of time, I guess, is what it was. Yeah.
Thanks for having
you.
us.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah.
Get in the car, I've got a song I have been dying to show you. So good so far, it's been so long since I've seen anyone I knew. Riverside Drive, November. I have been reckless lately. Passenger side will be gone till morning light. Interior booth in the back, broken, the air just hangs still. Maybe we should start to head back. Fluorescent lights making me feel ill. Riverside Drive, November. I have been reckless lately. Passenger side will be gone till morning light. Riverside Drive, November. I have been reckless lately. Passenger side will be gone, gone till the morning light. Riverside Drive, November. I have been reckless lately. Passenger side will be gone till morning light. Take a look around. I come from a town not too far from here. There is a sound, never figured out how to make it clear. I hear a song there inside my head, can't figure out what it's trying to say. I hear a voice inside my head, can't figure out what it's saying. Water underground, won't you cool me down, wash over me. Water underground, won't you cool me down, wash over me. Take a look around. Always had a reason to remain near. There is a sound, like a signal between stations. It's hard to hear. I hear a song there inside my head, can't lose it yet, try to make it stay. I hear a voice inside my head, can't figure out what it's saying. Water underground, won't you cool me down, wash over me. Water underground, familiar place with a familiar song. Got nowhere else to be. No turn you make is wrong. There is no rest, there is no sleep. The day becomes the night, and I am on some cobbled street. Feel like I'm going blind. The sun is shining through the trees. This haunted world is killing me. The moon talks to me in my sleep. This haunted world is killing me. Here, then everything changed. And when I'm happy now, somehow it's not the same. There is no rest, there is no sleep. The day becomes the night, and I am on some dead-end street. Feel like I'm going blind. The sun is shining through the trees. This haunted world is killing me. The moon talks to me in my sleep. This haunted world is killing me. The sun is shining through the trees. This haunted world is killing me. The sun talks to me in my sleep. This haunted world is killing me. The sun is shining through the trees. This haunted world is killing me. The moon talks to me in my sleep. This haunted world is killing me.